Hi, Beatrice.
Welcome to session one, the keynote session of Africa HomeComers Day. Today is Saturday, the 5th of November, 2022, and it's the day that we choose to celebrate African homecomers. My name is Ankrita Beatrice Achaleke. I am the serial author of Africa for Smart Kids book series, publisher of Globunto Books, and founder of Follow Me to Africa. I am your host. And after the opening session that I hope that you followed to get the background and the reason why this day is so important, we are moving up to the next session, which is our keynote, our opening keynote. And the keynote will be brought to us by Stephan Newton from Ghana. He's in Ghana right now, but when he introduces himself, you will see that he's not just a global citizen, but he's a true Pan-Africanist and someone who has traveled the continent probably more than any one of us. And so Stephan will introduce himself and will talk to us about his perceptions of Africa, but also about from the background of the work that he does. What are some of the lessons that he has learned about Africa, and what does Africa represent to him? So, without any further ado, Stephan, you say the future, Africa is the future, and
Yes.
we are right in the future now. And the question is, how does the future look, and how are we planning the future? So over to you for your keynote. I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you, Beatrice, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, Kwaba, wherever you may be. My name is Stephan Newton. I describe myself as an African born in America, which I'll get into a bit more details a bit later about that. But I'm honored to be here to speak with whomever's listening. I think this message, I'm going to speak to my group, which specifically are those diaspora who might be thinking about Africa as a destination, as a home. But also, I want to talk to Africans who might be thinking about coming back home. And I might dither a bit on the topic that Sister Beatrice has suggested. But if you ask my wife and my mother, I hardly listen to what people tell me to do. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing. I wanted to start off with this idea of Mother Africa. This is a terminology that we're all very familiar with. Africa as the mother, and why do we call Africa Mother Africa? There's a few reasons. The number one, I think we can all agree, and scientists agree, that this is where modern man civilization has come from. So most of, if not all of DNA originates here in Africa, but also it's a breadbasket. It is a continent that is able to sustain and to provide life and feed. So what I was thinking about this, and I was thinking to myself, when you think about a mother, what are some of the things that comes to mind? Mother Africa, your own mother. I remember growing up in the U.S. and you get into a fight in school, for example, and everything was okay until someone talked about your mother. That was the line that you drew in the sand of things really got serious. We have this innate need to protect, to love, to be close to our mothers. So here's a question. For those who have left home, why does a child leave its mother? Of course, there's a natural thing about leaving your mother and starting on your own way, but your mother being the actual continent itself. For those who were not born on the continent and maybe have a mixed feeling about mother, why would a child either hate or even shun their mother? And I think it's a bit deep, but I think it's a question worth asking. Noting that we have this innate need to protect, to love our mother. Why would one leave? Let's just think about this logically, or maybe some of you can ask yourself, if you are an African who has left the continent, why did you leave? The chances are you had the opportunity to do so. And the opportunity that was put in front of you was an opportunity you saw as a better opportunity. So many leave with the idea of leaving to come back. I'm going to leave, or it's in Tree, I'm going, I'm coming back. I'm going to leave. I'm going to better myself through education, through work, whatever it may be, through knowledge, through skill set, and the idea will come back. I'll come back. So just like in a real home, many of us leave home because we think we can do better. And many times we do better in some ways. I'm sure most of you who have left to better yourself have done that. Sometimes the time away is longer than we think. The better ourselves comes at a price, but that's one thing. The other thing, when you have a child who maybe has a more strained relationship with his mother, let's think about maybe some of the African diaspora who were subject to enslavement. Sometimes when a child has pain towards a mother, it's either through pain suffered or shame, someone hurt. And maybe that's why there's this thing. But there are also those extended children who maybe recognize the power of the mother, but sees the mother more as a thing of giving rather than receiving. That's just something I want you to just think about for a second. If this is the mother continent, which I think we all can agree it is, how do we love our mother? How do we love our mother? How do we show our love to our mother? When you decide to re-engage, so for those of us who I've been here for living on the continent for 15 years, South Africa for a good portion of that, Nigeria, Ghana, visited approximately 42 countries on the continent, so have seen quite a bit of the continent. For me, it's home. It's that feeling of coming back home to mother. But when you re-engage with your mother, let's say, for example, a lot of people during COVID have had a situation where things have gotten kind of tight and maybe they've had to slim down. Maybe they had to reassess the way they were doing things. And maybe there have been people who had to actually move back home. If that's ever happened to you, when you do re-engage with mom, how is that process usually? I can imagine is not the easiest process. You have gone away, or you were brought up a certain way. You had mom's rules, dad's rules. You left. You went and established your own that you thought were better, that served your purposes, and you find yourself back and you have your ways. But mommy always has her ways as well. Africa has its ways. You may go back and find that you don't quite fit the way that you fit when you left. You've changed, you've developed, you've progressed, you've matured, you have you become more worldly. And mom's rules are usually mom's rules. They don't usually change. It's something to think about when you re-engage with the continent, or you decide to come to the continent, to think about the ways that you think about things may be a little bit different. Now, let me give you an example. Growing up in the West, and growing up in an African-American household, Afro-Caribbean household, we of course have ways of the past, the ways that we have from our fathers, our mothers, our grandparents, but we also have ways of the West. I found myself here in Ghana. One of our neighbors passed away, and he was a chief. And I tell you, for 4 days straight, there was noise on the street. What I saw is noise. 4 days straight of nothing but, I'm sorry, my son wants to join the call.
TV.
Okay.
I'll tell you on TV.
Yes, now go.
It's Saturday.
Okay, nothing. He's my junior partner, so he has run of the house. Nothing but noise. And after about the second, third day, I called my father-in-law, who's from Ghana, complaining in my Western way. Oh my God, I just want to sleep. What is wrong with these people? Why can't they be quiet? And he said to me, you become too Western. And I'm going, why is this my problem? Why am I the wrong one? He said, well, the man who died on your street was your neighbor. He was part of your community. His death is a thing that the community feels. That community should take part in this process. So really, you shouldn't be in your bed. Really, you should be out there with them. He's part of your community. And you think about this, no matter where you are in the world, if you are of African, Caribbean descent, we know those ways, but we evolve, don't we? We evolve. So we now are at a point where we come back home thinking that the way that I have evolved, you should be there too. So remember, when you come back home to mom's house, mommy has rules, and you may feel differently, but usually mommy's rules win, right? It really put a different perspective on how I looked at that. Like, wow, I'm being selfish. In the West, we are conditioned to think about our bubble. We have our family, we have our neighbors. I might say hi to my neighbor if I'm in a really nice neighborhood that is quite friendly. We might even have barbecues together, dinners together. I might mourn with you if someone dies, but 3 days, in Africa, it's a lot different. So I guess one of the first things I want to say is when you come home or you decide to re-engage with Africa as a home, realize that you're coming home to mommy's house, and there are rules that you have to learn to fit in with. You can try to change things, and some things can be changed. If you come back home to mom, you may introduce her to things that she wasn't used to before. But understand that your home, and it's her home. I guess it's very important. So how do you manage that process? Just come with the mindset of, okay, it's not my way or the highway, because you'll probably lose. There have been many instances where I've had to think, listen, you're not in the West, you are here. I think also, if you come home to mom, you leave as a child, you come back as an adult. When you left, she fed you, she gave you things. When you come back, you have to think about, what do you have to give? There's no way that I could have survived in Africa for 15 years if I were looking for a job. I mean, let's put this in perspective. We're on a continent of 1.8 billion people. And that number is going to rise to 3.6 billion people imminently in the next 3 to 5 years. That 100% increase is going to be of 25 years or under. So young people, those young people, that 1.8 billion approximately young people are going to comprise at least 25% of the world's eligible workforce. So think about that in numbers for a second. So should I come to Africa looking for a job? I don't think so. There's a lot of opportunity. So just like coming back home, you have to think about, okay, I know what I get when I come home, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But what am I bringing to the table as well? You have to bring solutions. There are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of just now. Before the call, Sister Beatrice and I were going through some power problems. It happens. There are challenges, but if you come with solutions, it's a great market. I always like to paint a physical picture of the market. Being from the U.S., being born in the U.S., raised there, imagine you take the East Coast of the United States to Chicago, just to the Midwest, and you draw a line down that. It's about half of the U.S. And that one half, let's call it the east side, you paint that side black. That's just Nigeria. to give you an example, that population would be just Nigeria, over 250 million. Imagine a potentially captive audience of 1.8 rising to 3.6 billion people, who for most parts look like you, think like you in many ways, and are like you. It's an incredible thing. So it's an incredible feeling of coming home in that aspect of it. But you have to have the right mindset, and you have to have something to give as well. And the great thing about giving in Africa, and when I say giving, I'm not speaking of aid and sending money to a starving Ugandan child necessarily, but I'm talking about just coming with a solution and coming with ideas that are actionable. I had two recent conversations, which kind of segue into this. One was with a gentleman who I won't name, but he's a successful Ugandan entrepreneur. And he told me his story. He's living in the Silicon Valley. Interesting young man. You went to Berkeley for grad school as well. But he told me his backstory, which I'm going to say it. And for many people, it's not a big deal. But for many people in the West, it's a big deal. So what was his backstory? Young Ugandan boy whose both parents died. He had 4 siblings. So there are 5 of them. He's the eldest of 5. He was doing very well in school, but of course he had to start to work. He couldn't really finish school. But someone told him about a program from the West that would sponsor students. He went to this NGO. They found a family in the U.S. who paid for his education and gave him enough to take care of his family. So from there, he does very, very well. He then decides to go to college, which they decide to help him. They look at his grades and say, hey, you need to come to the U.S. to go to university. You're doing very well. He comes to California, does 1 year community college, gets accepted to Berkeley, UC Berkeley on a scholarship, ends up finishing magna cum laude. He then goes to grad school, all the while still taking care of his 4 brothers and sisters in Africa who have also graduated and who have gone on to different things in life. He started a few companies, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the story for some people are like, yeah, that's my cousin, that's whatever. But my point is that when you come with something for Africa and you employ young people, you don't even have an idea of the magnitude, how deep that network goes. I don't know the exact number, Beatrice, maybe you could assist me, but I mean, on average, any African who is making money is supporting quite a few people. So the effect is compounded, if you will. Now, I'm being very mindful of time. Okay, great.
Yes.
I've got 10 minutes.
3 more minutes. 3 more minutes to wrap it up.
10 more minutes. Okay. So 3. Okay, I can do it in 3. No worries. So again, what do I love now? Why is it worth the while? Why? I'm a person who has choices. I can live in the U.S. I can live in Europe. I can live in the West Indies. Why do I choose to live on the African continent? Well, number one, it is home. It's my motherland. Although there are some challenges. There's always some challenges at home. The love is very, very important. And let me explain what I mean. For those of you who are from the continent, who have gone to the West and seeking to come back, you'll understand. For those of you who are more estranged from the continent, I hope you understand as well. I'll give it to you in an example. My son, who you just saw, came in. We're in the U.S. for the summertime. He loves anime. He wants to buy a katana, a Japanese sword, but a plastic one. Amazon, loves Amazon. We go on Amazon, we buy the sword. It comes to our house in New Jersey, and it looks very real. And he says, Dad, I want to go outside and play with the sword. And it struck me, I can't let you do that. Why can't I go out and play with the sword? Now, I'm thinking of all the what ifs. What if someone sees this little black boy and says, hey, there's a little kid, there's a black boy outside playing with a sword. What happens then? Well, the police come. And at that point, I have no control over what the narrative is.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. We've seen it happen. The love that I'm talking about is that love you have at home. Hey, I'm home. So I know for a fact there's no country on this continent where my son will be killed because he's black. I know that for a fact. He could still be harmed, but that will not be the reason. So there is this love. Are there challenges? Yes, there are definitely challenges, but there is a security and a feeling of where you belong. And again, the feeling of, if it is about business as well, you have 1.8 billion rising to 3.6 billion people who might be more inclined to get you, if you understand what I mean. So I think I've done less than 3 minutes. I know it wasn't exactly the topic you wanted, Beatrice, but I woke up with a message on my heart. So I said, let me give this one. I hope it was useful.
Stephan, it's so useful. You asked some very fundamental questions, and you brought in some elements that we sometimes neglect, because the narrative about the continent is so negative that people tend to buy into the negative rather than look for the truth, look for the positive, look for the advantages of what it takes to be on the continent. And I'm saying to you, look, you are born in America. You come to live, you choose to live in a continent. That's a conscious choice. We're seeing a lot of people moving into the continent. I mean, within the last 10 years, the number of Chinese who have moved into the continent is increasing. It's increasing. And we notice when you go back to history, you realize that the people that colonized Africa are not gone. They're still very much here. And you're asking if the continent...
Everyone understands the value of the mother. We need to understand the value of the mother.
That's right. That's right. And I like that analogy of the mother. And it speaks to me, Stephan, because when I came back after 20 years, we think like we've learned something, let's go teach Africa. But until I surrender and say, Africa, what do I need to learn? Where is my place? Shifting the paradigm for I'm going to fix Africa to say,
where can I add value?
Right. How can I add value? But where am I needed? Where am I needed? Not where I think I should be because I've been somewhere abroad. So that's one of the things that kills a lot of people, because you bring concepts somewhere here and you want to implement and they don't work because you did not take into account the realities, the contextual realities of what the country has been. You may have been born there, but ever since you left, like you say, so much has changed. So when you come back, when you go abroad, you have to integrate yourself in that society that you're going to. So when you come back, you need to reintegrate yourself in order to be able to find a space where you can find value, find what you need to do and to add the value that you're talking about. So really very quick, before I give it to you to wrap up, we are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you're joining us out there, feel free to join the conversation, use the comment box and participate in the conversation. We switch the channel each time that a session is over. And our next session is coming up in about 8 minutes. So you want to start looking for the next link so that you can switch to the next conversation, which is going to be the first expert panel with four other homecoming Africans. So Stephan, I will come back to you. I mean, you touch on a whole lot of things which are so practical from your space, and also the aspect of security, just knowing that you have a peace of mind, that you blend in, that you don't stand out because of the way you look like, and that you have to fear for that. That's something that is so huge for our continent. So I just want to appreciate the thoughts that you dropped in, and we're asking the question again. What will you do for your mother Africa? What will you do for your mother Africa? So you're here. Let me give you the last 2 minutes to wrap up your session. And I want to remind our viewers that we have another session coming up that is on challenges and opportunities, where we will focus, where you can ask your questions also from those of you who are participating from online. So I will go to Stephan and ask you to wrap up now. And I see Nat. Nat, thank you so much for joining from the US. Nat, we need to talk. So, Stephan, I'll let you wrap up your presentation, and then we will move on to the next channel. And I'm asking everyone to stay tuned. What would be your final thoughts?
I would just wrap it up by saying you're welcome. Please. There are challenges here, but the reward is great. What I am personally working on is I want this continent to be a continent where my son and my daughters and my grandchildren look at it as a aspirational place to be, not the media, the way the media is portraying it now. There are some incredible opportunities here, incredible places that are even better than some of the best places in the US, in my opinion, or Europe. And there are some places that are not, but that's the world. Come and make your part here. Make this continent, which is your mother continent, the place where you can and your children's children can be proud of. So to take part of that mission.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today and to share your thoughts. It really hits me home when someone who had the choice to live somewhere else, who is born somewhere else, comes to live here. and say, I've made a conscious choice to be here. And so I'm, challenging those of us Africans who are lucky to be born on the continent to look at, the continent from that perspective, to say, what does it take a successful person like you to come here? You've traveled over 40 of the 55 countries that we have on the continent, and you're doing businesses, you're settling, you love it here, and you don't have any worries, and I just think it's something that we should look up to. Many of us should be coming back home. And this is why at Follow Me to Africa, we're setting up a structure that will allow you to meet the people who are doing it, who can give you mentorship, give you coaching, who can take you by the hand, show you where the opportunities and possibilities are. So if this is what you're up to, you want to stick up to the last session today, because we're talking about the way forward. And this is where we will be calling you to action. This is where we tell you about the possibilities and the options that you can take to kind of a quick jump. Because those of the people that we have in this platform are people who have done it. They're not people who will preach to you. They're people who will give you practical information, take you by the hand, and really help you to find your space on the continent. Because, hey, this is our mother continent. We need not just to protect our mother, but we have the responsibility to own and to drive Africa in the direction that we want before we become strangers on this continent. So, Stephan, that was it. And just in case you still have another final word, because your words are words of wisdom.
I'll give you thank you, Beatrice. I'm here for you. If I can be of any further assistance, please let me know. I really appreciate and honor that you thought of me. So, thank you.
I will come for that. We're working on Destination Sao Tome for 2023. This is where the journey should be going for most diasporans. So if you're out there and you're wondering where to go, you want to stick around, because we also have incredible speakers from Sao Tome who will tell you why Sao Tome is the place to go if you're looking for where, your entry gate point into Africa. Thank you, Stephan. Thank you to all of you who are online. I see and acknowledge you. I celebrate all the homecomers and potential upcoming homecomers. I will close the session for now and get ready to see you in 5 minutes after the hour in the next session, where we are bringing in homecomers who have returned to their home countries and who are in pursuit of their African dreams and doing very well and being happy that they return home. So join us in the next, pick the next links and join us in the next session. Thank you so much, Stephan. I'll see you in the Q&A. If you can come in, in that session, we will be glad to take some questions. Thank you. And greetings to
Cheryl, yes.
To Cheryl and to your associate.
To your partner, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.